Today we put special education services under the spotlight.
The government has ordered a major review of the $520 million it spends on special ed. We canvass opinions of what's working,
What's not?
and what's needed.
Lazy boys, ping pong.
And education is allowing people to get the best out of themselves and to develop the best way that they can.
I want her to learn, I want her to leave school with a qualification, I want her to have a job.
Our goal is no different to a normal family. We just know we've got a big problem right from the start.
You know, and we have these policies, and I call them meringue policies. They look so sweet, so seductive on the outside, and they're full of nothing for parents. You know, we've got to do better than this.
I bet you thought every kid in New Zealand has always been entitled to a free education. Not so. Until 1989, schools were allowed to refuse entry to kids with disabilities. The New Education Act was meant to change everything. But 20 years on, parents are still not happy. And neither is the government. Special education's up for review. So what sort of deal are Kiwi kids getting? 20 years ago, Bridget Snedden and Colleen Brown had school-aged children. Both had boys with Down syndrome. The mums fought for the best education for their kids. Alex Snedden and Travis Brown are adults now. But today, Bridget and Colleen are still fighting the cause for other children with disabilities. The battle line might have shifted since Alex started school, but the war's far from over.
What really makes my blood boil now is the fact that we're having this conversation. The fact that it's special education, or the review, or whatever it is, continues to be up for discussion. Every kid should just simply be going to their local school. Educators should be educating kids, regardless of what their ability is.
How come schools can still turn parents away? How come I can sit in a room and listen to a father last week say to me, I went to one school I'm zoned for and they didn't make me feel welcome?
In 1989, the government redrafted the Education Act. It was known as Tomorrow Schools. Its big promise was to give parents more say over the education of their children. The legislation declared every child now had the right to be educated in their local school. Teachers would be given the resources they needed to cater to kids' needs. But Tomorrow Schools has never quite delivered on the promise made to kids with disabilities.
As I saw, parents' energies were then redirected back to the local community. How to keep a child in school, how to make sure a disabled had a voice within a school. And there were fewer people out there in the Ministry of Education, I think, batting for us.
What's in there? We have got the Education Act. I mean, how many families have got the Education Act in a box for their grandchildren? You know, I can't believe that we went through what we did at the time.
In 1990, when the New Education Act took effect, schools were legally bound to accept kids with disabilities. But even our own producer found her kid was turned away at the school gates. The principal's comment was, "We don't want another problem." Her son had his bag on his back and it should have been his first day at school. Colleen Brown found her local school was welcoming of Travis, but there were no guidelines as to how his needs would be met. Parents all over the country were placed in the awkward position of having to negotiate with their school.
The struggle was that we didn't know what the needs of the children were, and we didn't want to impose anything on the school that they couldn't deal with. So we planned that we may have to subdivide a classroom off for have some downtime from being with other children. We contacted the Director of Special Education in Wellington to get resourcing. There was no resourcing that we could actually see would there be theirs of right. And we toed and froed on this whole matter.
Man, we were determined. We were determined to make sure Alex had a damn good education from a place that welcomed him, and at one point when we realised it wasn't going to happen and went somewhere else, it was okay. It's taken a long time to get over this. It took a long time, I should say. Well, I'm truly over it now.
When Tomorrow's Schools came into force, there was no new pot of money that schools could easily tap into to support kids with disabilities. It wasn't until 6 years after Tomorrow's Schools was introduced that specific funds were created. There have been constant calls for greater support and more money. Finally, a major review of special education is underway. But from the outset, the Minister has made it quite clear there is no more money. So is there enough? We've asked a group of parents what do they think of the review and current provisions. Bronwyn works as a teacher aide. Her daughter Hayley goes to a mainstream school and has Down syndrome.
The resourcing is minimal, really minimal. I mean, our children just aren't really surviving. They're doing okay in the mainstream. Some of them are doing okay in the mainstream, but that depends on the school and the classroom teacher and the teacher aide. There are children out there that are really failing in the mainstream, and it's all because the school can't afford to have them there.
Francesca's son James has Down syndrome. He goes to a mainstream school.
The way it's currently set up, there obviously isn't enough funding for every child to have the supports that they require.
Sharon's son Elliot goes to a special school. Sharon works as a teacher in a mainstream school.
The current funding structure really doesn't work for kids with very high needs if they're going to be mainstreamed. They are the kinds of kids that need to go to the special schools because all their allocations can be sort of accumulated, and teachers that are specialised in their kinds of needs can be employed and paid.
What's the first number? 1. Good girl. 0.
Around 100,000 children receive some kind of special assistance at school. Only 7% have any real certainty under something known as ORS, Ongoing and Reviewable Resource Schemes. Specific to the child's needs, it involves parents filling out a multi-page application form that goes into huge detail, right back to the mother's pregnancy. Parents say to qualify, you basically need to prove your child is more disabled than the next.
3, jump. Good work.